shofar blast, and we will do so again. So you can join with me in saying Tekiah. Tekiah.
And this is the Elul Nagun. Yadidai, yai, 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 yadidai, yai, 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 yadidai, yai, 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 yadidai, yai, yai, yadidai, yai, yai, yadidai, yai, 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 yadidai, yai, yadidai, yai,
Shabbat shalom, everybody. I want to, as we kind of welcome each other, welcome Shabbat, as we gather this Shabbat, we find ourselves on Zoom once again this week. Surprise, surprise. There's really an opportunity for us to continue to engage in this platform by making sure that we take time to look at everybody who's gathered. It makes a difference when we kind of look into each other's eyes, even in this virtual platform. When it's possible, if we can turn on our camera, it really lifts the spirit to be able to see each other's faces. To see a number of our kids from college who have joined us tonight is just really a blessing. And so when we're able, or family members joining other family members by Zoom, it really creates a wonderful sense of community. And so don't underestimate how important it is that we see your face. I want to invite you to sing with us, to clap with us, to snap with us, whatever way you want to express yourself. And it really helps us feel like this is a community, that we're not just passively taking in something, but that we are creating something dynamic and live that we are all a part of. And I really want to encourage us, I may be one of the only rabbis to encourage people to use the chat. I see how we connect and greet one another as essential part of the service. It is a different way to pray as we offer a sense of kindness and warmth when we don't get to see each other so often. And so really, I invite you to kind of make this platform work for you as we continue during this time. And so we're going to light Shabbat candles. And tonight we have two candlelighters. We want to invite first Heather Zessinger, who we are celebrating as she entered into the covenant of the Jewish people today. And we'll have a moment to bless her at the end of Kabbalat Shabbat. But let us give her some blessing and energy. Heather, if you'll our Shabbat candles. Mazel tov.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Hey, Jared.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'halik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Hey, Ronan. And we're going to invite
I want to be here.
Marty Citron and all of his family to light Shabbat candles. And really also just want to take a moment, I'll say more about it. This Shabbat, we want to uplift and recognize all of our public health and our medical health workers, and just so much gratitude for the light that you are bringing into our country and to the world in this moment. And so thank you, Marty, for lighting Shabbat candles.
Thank you, Josh. If you allow me, tonight we're also celebrating the Yortzeit of the matriarchs in the Cetron family. My mother's mother, Jackie and my mom, and actually Maya's mother, all passed away within, are celebrating Yortzeits in the last 24 or 48 hours or so. So we're gonna light 3 Yortzeit candles in their honor, and then we'll light the Shabbat candles.
Absolutely. Zichronan livracha, may their memories be a blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvot v'tzivanu
Public Ner, Shel Shabbat.
Amen.
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 I'm going to invite Gan to lead us in singing the prayer for those of us who are lighting at home.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlich ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Amen. And so in thinking about honoring our public health workers, I wanted to invite Marty to offer some words at the beginning of our service. So thank you, Marty.
So thank you, Josh, Gan, and all for inviting us. I've been thinking a lot about what it means to be a public health worker in this time of COVID over the last several years. And I've been thinking about, at times, there's just a tremendous amount of darkness that the public health workers have felt. Not just the challenge of the virus, but also the ability to influence and the outcome and do our jobs in a way that we are accustomed. And with so much darkness around us, I find myself thinking about what matters and how do we sort of find our way in darkness. It's much easier to find our way in daylight when there's many signs pointing the way, but in the darkness of night and difficult times where most of the traditional landmarks are gone, it takes some extra skills. And in particular, what I found is that the path that we can use to find our way in this darkness is having a really, really strong moral compass and a return to the teachings and the midot that were important parts of our tradition and important parts of the course that Rabbi Josh and Gayan and Amy and so many others of us had the privilege to study together for a year, many years ago. And the moral compass is also can be hard to see and follow in the dark. And we're in the midst of a strong magnetic storm, if you will, where the forces around seem pretty intense on moving the needle off the true north. But what I have found that provides inspiration is that in this community of CDC, public health workers, and public health workers all across the country amidst the magnetic storm, there is a way that each of us can keep us on a strong moral grounding and footing. And this actually, I get by recalling not only the teachings of our ancestors, but also the lessons of the matriarchs that we have lost in our family right around this time of year. My grandmother, my mother, Maya's mom, these women have been steadfast in their passing on their traditions of moral integrity. And were it not for them and the many other teachers that we have, sometimes we just need to call that strength upon us. Just in terms of the numbers, because people have asked, the numbers are pretty impressive. There are 20,000 staff at CDC. A quarter of them, or 5,000 people, are actively involved in this response right now. Just to give a feeling, there are hundreds of deployments. There are tens of thousands of documents that have been carefully crafted for posting on the website. There were 200,000 at last check calls that engaged all the healthcare workers in the communities to share best practices, knowledge, learning from each other, observation, challenges, or sometimes just to bear witness to each other's fears and frustrations. These two are a really grounding source of the moral compass. And to my fellow CDC workers who at times have felt demoralized or at odds, not being able to execute faithfully and truthfully the calling of our mission, or having to take that into account of the circumstance of the magnetic storm around us, I say this too shall pass. We will find our way in the darkness and back into light. And the kindling of the Shabbos lights reminds us on a weekly basis of how important it is to take that spark of light within us and light somebody else's candle and bring in some of the illumination. So I welcome the opportunity to share some reflections with you and to continue to learn from all of you in this good place. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom, Yesher Koach. Thank you, Marty. And we continue. Just wanted to, before we move into Dodi Lee and sing a bit of Song of Songs, Shabbat and Elul, I just want to recognize that this is a moment where our Torah portion, Ki Teitzei, is one where one of the fundamental teachings around preventative lessons, which ultimately goes into prevention around public health, comes from this Torah portion. The law that says that you must build a parapet or a fence around your rooftop is in this Torah portion. And from this, the rabbis extrapolate all kinds of ways that we have to be concerned about the public well-being and prevention. And so the work that our medical health workers and that our public health workers do, our frontline folks in terms of preventing and also taking good, compassionate care, are deeply Jewish values. And so for me, it has been a blessing that we have so many people in our community who do this work and who really understand the value of the common good and the need to protect the public in our country and around the world. And so it feels very natural to want to honor you at this time. We know that there has been much placed upon your shoulders, and we wanted to ensure that you understood how much we appreciate all that you're doing, and that you need not be alone, and that this is a community that seeks to support you and uplift you and appreciate your value and want to deepen the values that you walk in the world. So thank you for the way that we extend that sense of common good together. And so when we think about the love of Elul, I think that's very much, the kind of love for our fellow human being and the necessity for all of us to have the kind of health and opportunity and possibility. And so much of you make that a reality. We find Dodi Lee on page 17.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Marty. We're going to bring some love into this darkness with Dodi Lee. So it's a call and response. I may not be able to hear you, but respond after this. Dodi Lee va'ani lo haroe bashoshanim. Dodi Lee va'ani lo haroe bashoshanim. Dodi Lee va'ani lo haroe bashoshanim. Your turn. Dodi Lee va'ani lo haroe bashoshanim. Dodi Lee va'ani lo. Dodi Lee va'ani That was you. Dodi livani lo haroeba shoshani.
Friends, we welcome the Shabbat and we welcome each other with Shalom Aleichem, which you'll find on page 13. We're not going to move into breakout groups since we have a lot moving through this service. So please take some time to wish each other Shabbat Shalom in the chat. Either send a chat to the entire group or you wish a friend that you see in one of our Zoom boxes a personal Shabbat Shalom. Please join us.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochim leShalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sechem leShalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Stepping back a little bit in our Kol Hanshama Sidurim tonight, to bring Yadid Nefesh another welcome, to see light in your light, to also bring this healing into this space, which is what our public health workers are dedicated to. Yadid Nefesh Avarach Haman Meshoch Avdecha El Ritzonecha Yarutz Avdecha Kemo Adonai Ziv Haolam Nafshi Cholat Avtecha Ana Elna Rifana La Beharot La Noam Zivecha Az Titchazek V'Tidrapeh Sing to God a new song, Shir Ladonai, page 25. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Batzru miyom, Liyom Yeshuato, Yai, 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 Yai. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru Miyom Liyom Yeshuato. Hey, ya ya da da.
So a number of years ago, I was asked to present on a panel at Georgia State about public health and faith. And so I turned to a number of you in the community for some guidance. And it was really when it was explained to me about how much prevention was an important part. And while I would say that a number of people made some facile connections, I felt like it was an opportunity for me to take a moment and explain that religion and faith can be a barrier to prevention, or it can help create access. And that so many of traditional practices can get in the way of not understanding the larger intention. And that instead, when we move into our relational values, it makes sense that eye towards prevention, just the way that we would understand wearing masks for each other and looking at prevention this way, really comes from the value of loving your fellow human being as yourself, having respect for your neighbor, by loving the stranger. These are the kinds of values that can go hand in hand with preventative health. And even more so, there was a devar that Marty gave a number of years ago looking at Ebola, recognizing how we have to have particular kind of sensitivity to the ways of people's practices and traditions, so that what we offer as prevention and what we offer as good sense of health and well-being actually has the opportunity to make a difference. In all of these ways, we are planting seeds that will bear. And the psalm that talks about these seeds of light, and that for the righteous, there is this sense of heart opening. I believe that when we put people's well-being and common good at the center of what we do, whether it's health work, whether it's spiritual faith work, it ends up bearing the kind of light that the world needs. Please join us in singing Or Zerua on page 31.
And if you're in a space with more than one person, you can actually sing two of these parts at the same time with the person you're with. And otherwise, you can just sing with me. Bum diddy 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 diddy bum. You can keep doing that. Or Zarua Latzadik Uyishrei Lev Simcha. 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 If you'll turn to page 41, we're going to bring Shabbat in with Chadodi. Chadodi li krakala yadada 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 v'nei Shabbat nekabela Shabbat nekabela shamo v'zachor b'dibor echad ishmi'anu elam yuchad Adonai echad shmo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'li'tila lechad dodi likrat kala yadada 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela lechad dodi likrat kala yadada 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela hitoreri hitoreri kiva oreku miori uri uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alach nikla hey lechad dodi likrat kala yadada 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela lechad dodi likrat kala yadada 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela yamin u'smol tifrotzi ve'et Adonai taritzi al yad ish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila hey lechad dodi likrat kala yadada 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela lechad dodi likrat kala yadada 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'tzola toch emunei am segula boi chala boi chala lechad dodi likrat kala yadada 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela lechad dodi likrat kala yadada 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 B'nei Shabbat nekabela Rabbi, you're muted.
Yes. Sorry, I think there was a double unmuting at the same time. It'll be one of the sins in the Ashamnu coming up for Yom Kippur. I double unmuted. I want to invite my colleague, Rabbi Pamela Godfrey, to offer some words and a blessing for Heather in this moment. Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see you.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you. But Heather, before I begin reading the Mishaberach, both in Hebrew and English, in which we'll announce your Hebrew name to the congregation, I wanted to share just a few words about what I think you most taught me as we met for many months to study together, and as we've been preparing for this day, for this moment. Your commitment to family and to instilling the values that were passed to you by your parents and by Jared's parents and their generation, and bringing them forward to the generation of your children has really inspired me. When you explained this morning a little bit in more detail why you wanted to add a middle name to your Hebrew name, and that's the Hebrew name of your great aunt, Suzanne, a Jewish woman who married one of your grandmother's brothers, your great uncle. The degree to which you cherish community and continuity between the generations was immediately apparent. It was just so, it was so obvious That was the big takeaway today. Your children are the namesakes of your great uncle, and you have decided to be the namesake of this beloved great aunt. And in that way, you are bringing that generation forward through you and into the children, your children's generation. And I just found that very, very meaningful. So I wanted to share that. I hope you don't mind that I've shared that with everyone. And I also just wanted to say what a privilege it is to, in this blessing, announce this name in Hebrew as we welcome you in a new way into this beloved community that you are embraced by, that you've been a part of for many years. Mishaberach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah v'yivarech et achotenu Esther Shoshana bar Avraham v'Sarah v'vo'a lachasot tachat kanfei Shechina v'listapeach b'nachalat Yisrael Behimonota al ger hatzedek betoch am Yisrael. Yehi ratzon shetatzliach b'darka v'tir ebracha b'chol ma'aseh yadeha v'namar amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless our sister and Haverim, Esther, Shoshana, bat Avraham v'Sarah. We welcome into the community of the Jewish people and under the wings of the Shekhinah. May she be counted among the righteous Jews by choice, who are devoted to God, to the study of Torah and constant, continuous lifelong learning, to the practice of mitzvot, to the acts of social justice and gemilut chesed, loving kindness. May she uphold the covenant with loyalty and love and joy and celebration and laughter. And may God bless the work of her hands as she strives to bring about healing and redemption to our world. May she, Esther, Shoshana, Heather, and the Jewish people be a blessing to each other. And we all say, Amen.
Amen.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
And I just want to offer you a blessing as well, Heather, at this time. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ken yiratzon ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'kuneka, Ken yiratzon yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, Ken yiratzon. May God bless you and protect you. May God's face shine upon you and bring you favor. And may God's face turn towards you and bring you peace. Ken yiratzon. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So friends, I'm going to invite us to turn to page 45 for the Chatzi Kaddish, page 55. Yikadaha v'yitkada shemei rabba v'alma divra chirute v'amlich malchute v'chai Echon v'yomechon uvchayedecho beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizmahan kahariv v'meru amen. Yehesh me rabo mevorach leolam leom me'amaya Yiparach v'ishtabach v'par v'tromam v'yitnaseh v'tadar v'talev v'talahal shmei dekudesha richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amihiran be'alma v'meru amen. We continue with the Baruch Hu, which we find on page 57. Ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da da da. Baruchu et Adonai, Hamevorach, Hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach leolam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. So for our alternative to Asher Bivaro, I'd like to invite Allison Kelly to read The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry.
Still can't hear me?
We can hear you now. Doing good. We could hear you. I think it means she can't hear us, but we can hear her.
Okay, yes, I can't hear you, but I will read. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
Amen.
Ma'avir yom u'mevi laila, u'mavdil ben yom ve'laila, Adonai tzevaot shemo, el chai v'chayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
Ma'ariv araviv.
Amen. We find Ahavat Olam on page 63. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limahadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu u'vekumeinu Nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'v'mitzvotecha, le'oholacham va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, v'orech yameinu, v'orech yameinu, u'vahem negeh, Yomam v'layla, Yomam v'layla. V'avat kalo tatzur mimenu li'olamim, Baruch ata Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Amen. Continue on page 65 with the Shema. I invite us to take a moment, perhaps close our eyes before we say these words and tap into that sense of oneness that binds and connects us all.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושינתם ללבך ודיברת בם, בפשיטך בדבריך ובלטך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובמקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ילדיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, ובכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. You can turn to page 79 for Mi Chamocha, our prayer of liberation. Mi Chamocha be'ilim Adonai, Mi Chamocha neder b'kodesh, norat ilot, otzef ele, otzef ele, ya-da-da-ya, ya-ya-ya, da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da, ya-da-da, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, leolam va'ed. Ya-da-da, ya-ya-ya, da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da, ya-da, ya-da-da, ya-ya-ya, da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da. Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Ya-da-da, ya-ya-ya, da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da, ya-da, ya-da-da, ya-ya, ya-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da. We will be chanting the words Ufros Aleinu Suchat Shlemecha. This chant, these words that come from the Hashkivenu prayer, our evening prayer of asking for a shelter of peace. Ufros Aleinu Suchat Shelomecha, Ufros Aleinu Suchat Shelomecha, Ufros Aleinu Suchat Shelomecha.
May we move from that shelter of peace to a moment of silence. In this time of Elul, it's an opportunity for us to do a bit of soul searching. And I think that always when we're honest with ourselves and we look inwards, it can be a vulnerable prospect to take a moment and to really look at how we are measuring up in our lives and what we hope. And so even more so in a time when things have taken a sharp turn and we find our lives are a little bit unsettled in ways, and that sometimes we even find that the responses that we're having in the moment don't make complete sense to how we know ourselves to be. I would tell you, I'm not someone who trying to create a machzor would bring to tears, but literally that is pretty much where I was at the end of trying to format something. And for me, it had me recognize that there are so many pressures and differences that we are confronting, and they may feel sometimes small, and for some of us, they are indeed large, but these small little things can continue to build where it feels like a great weight. And so I want to invite us as we move into this silence to have this Elul season invite a bit more gentleness, a bit more softness for each of us and for those around us. It can feel like sometimes we don't have patience for ourselves or for others. But I think that if we can drop into recognizing that these times dictate a slowing down rather than a hastening, it will allow for a sense of that gentleness and patience to arrive. May we find that in our silence. Take a moment, just connect to your breath and just allow that sense of awareness, and whatever feelings arise are just fine. I was kicked off, I'm back. Did anyone read the names? Or are we still waiting for the names?
We didn't read the names. We were enjoying the silence, Rabbi.
I'm glad that I could afford you all of our nightmares happening right before High Holy Days. I'd promised myself I would start having a backup. My phone wasn't backed up on Zoom, but it's a good cautionary tale for me. So thank you for bearing with me. We're gonna take our thoughts to healing. I invite you to put in the chat those names of those that you pray, a refuah shlema, a healing of body, of mind, and spirit. I want you to add those names as I read those in our community. Richard Adler, Hillary Bauer, Loretta Bernstein, Bob Bloomfield, Murray Chase, Judy Cohen, Richard Cohen, Estelle Green, Sylvia Gross, Ronit Elk, Jerry Falcon, Larry Huntsberry, Matthew Kantrowitz, Mark Copen, Arnie Corfine, Michael Lappin, Elaine Levin, Bob Levy, Robin Levy, Ann Lewis, Paulette LeCourcier, Tommy Macon, Melissa Macha, Esther Meyer, Sharon Miller, Sarah Newmark, Aylin Olson, Dory Perling, Michael Perling, Ethan Post, Mario Ravri Sr., Alan Rosen, Gary Rosenthal, Judy Roth, Harris Rotman, Cheryl Siegel, Clifford Greenfield, David Singer, Elliot Stryker, Maria Talenti, Eve Turner, Dolly Wax, Shirley Weiss, Aline Tootie White, Phil Whiting, John Witherspoon, Iris Bulls, Tom Reich, Deborah Krotenberg, Frank Noon, Patricia Noon Richardson, Jamie Robertson, Yanko Bott, Sarah, Matteo Bezzini, George Telling, Elton Reynolds, Alyssa Robin, Norma Harris, Kate Hamill, Janine Grasso Smith, Kim McCullough, Julio Quintana, Ellie Emmerich, and Aaron Darcy and Addison Cody. I want to invite Will to say some words about the Misha Berach that we're about to experience.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Can you hear me? This is a Misha Berach that I wrote at the beginning of this year after Gayan's terrible car accident. And we sang it first at Shabbat Shirah. And I had no idea how important the idea of healing and health would be for this year. And I didn't get to hear this prayer in person too many times because we had Shabbat Shirah and we sang it at a couple other services, and then that was the last time we were in person. So the chorus has been recording from home, so I asked them to add some harmonies to this, and I asked them to hold in their hearts someone that they were praying for healing for when they sang. And I put their recordings together a couple of weeks ago, and they'll tell you that when I played it for them in rehearsal, I broke down because I just hadn't heard that sound in so long, that just heartfelt, authentic voice that our chorus has. So we want to offer that to you tonight, and we want to offer it tonight especially in honor of the medical workers and the folks in public health who are doing and giving so much of themselves to bring healing to our community and our country and our world. And we hope you'll join with us in singing.
I can understand, Will, how you would have a moment of overwhelm. It's so beautiful to hear our chorus community singing, and particularly singing this prayer for healing. And so, so appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody who contributed, and really to share it tonight feels incredibly meaningful. And I think it fits really well with the message that Deblina Dada is going to be giving tonight. Deblina has been someone who for years has been working on polio eradication response from the CDC. And there have been moments that have been very trying this year, but there was something that happened that was incredibly powerful this week. And it was really her idea to share something with the congregation. And then that led to the creation of this service. So I'd like to invite Deblina to share her words of Life Torah with us this evening. Thank you, Deblina.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi. Can I just understand, can I just hear if folks can hear me? Okay, great. Great. So thanks, Rabbi Josh and Gayan and Will for creating this space for those of us who are toiling this year like never before. I want to just say that, you know, my husband and I, we came to this congregation because we were an interfaith couple. And that was incredible to me. But then I also learned that Rabbi Josh has this real affinity towards public health and the mission of public health, as he mentioned earlier this evening. So that's been just a second unexpected attraction for me for this lovely, lovely congregation. So a lot of the things that Marty said earlier this evening, I just want to echo. This has been busy times. It's been trying times. I think one of the things that's been very difficult is the feeling that we're connected to all these people, this, you know, virus that started out somewhere in China and it spread through Europe and then it came to this hemisphere. It's this feeling of this connectedness and this fear because of that connectedness. And I wanted to use this opportunity in this Devar to turn that on its head and talk about connectedness in a different way. And I think that as Rabbi Josh said, there was something really incredible that happened earlier this week. And so what I wanted to frame the event that happened Tuesday, which I'm going to tell everyone about. I wanted to frame it as, first of all, it's the result of many years of work. And sometimes there's work that goes on in the background and you don't hear about it. You hear things that are in the foreground, things through the lens of media or the lens of what friends or people in your community are talking about. And myself being an epidemiologist, I think of that as a fraction of everything that's happening in the background. So you have this numerator of events and denominator of silent events. Well, there's something in the denominator that I draw tremendous strength from and that I wanted to share with you because something incredible happened as a result of that work. So this past Tuesday on August 25th, there was an announcement from the WHO being broadcast from Brazzaville, which is in the Republic of Congo. And it was a declaration to the world that Africa, the African continent, was now free of wild polio virus. And just to let you know, before polio vaccine, 75,000 children per year were paralyzed each year on the continent from polio. And the announcement is the culmination of work which really began in 1988. And it involves the work of 2 million frontline health workers, thousands of district, provincial, and national public health workers, laboratorians, ministries of health. And the work was the culmination of this vision of this global partnership, which includes the WHO, UNICEF, Rotary International, And I just want to say hi to my Rotary Club friends who are able to join us tonight. Rotary International, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the CDC, who work together as a single partnership. And that partnership is called the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. And through that program, polio vaccines are distributed to about 220 million children each year. And you did hear that number correctly, 220 million children a year. So declaring this to the world that Africa is now a continent free of wild polio, my enthusiasm is tempered by two things. One is that unfortunately we still have some small outbreaks of polio in Africa, which are not wild polio. They're a different type of polio, but we need to get those under control too. And then we have one more continent that has not eradicated wild polio, and that's the Middle East. And so there's two countries in the world that still have wild polio, and those are Pakistan and Afghanistan. And one day, once we eradicate polio in those two countries, we're going to declare the world to be polio free. That's going to be an incredible day. The numbers that I've been saying are pretty large, and it's pretty easy to get lost in those numbers. And I wanted to share with this group, my CVH family, some experiences that I draw tremendous strength from. And I hold these experiences with me in my work as touchstones. And so these are just some of the things that I think about. One is I was working, so I've worked a lot on the African continent, and in the country of Guinea, which is in Western Africa. We were going house to house to look for children. We had just done a big vaccination campaign, and polio vaccine is drops. So we had given drops to hundreds of thousands of children, and we were going door to door looking for children that we had missed. We found a 10-year-old boy living in a small dwelling, and his arm, unfortunately, just 2 weeks before had been, he was paralyzed from polio. And it was shocking to me because we had just been through that neighborhood 4 weeks ago. And it was something that could have been prevented. And polio in many parts of the world, it sentences its victims to a life of destitution. In this country, we have the Americans with Disabilities Act. That doesn't exist in a lot of places in the world. And so paralysis equals a life of poverty and a very diminished existence. And there was this boy, I was looking at this boy and I could see his future. It was terrible. But I carry the memory of that boy with me. And I remember he was really embarrassed, and he kept turning away because he didn't want me to see his arm. So that's just one of the touchstones that I think about. Another one is working with folks in Liberia. And this was, we were training some workers, local workers, how to go out and vaccinate children and how to find the children. That's the hardest part of the job, is finding every single child. And we had them in a room and we were talking about, well, how are you going to find all these children? And you need these maps of your neighborhoods, and then you need to go block by block. And people said, well, we don't have maps. And we said, well, draw them, sit down and draw a map. People said, we don't know how to draw maps. And I said, well, and I was trying to explain. And then I looked and I saw, this one guy in the corner, and he was drawing. And I said, well, how does he know how to draw a map? And they said, oh, he's the artist in our community. And so this artist then stood up, and he was teaching people how to draw maps. And so we spent the afternoon learning from an artist about how to draw a map. And the next day, all the workers took those maps out into their communities, and they reached every single, house of worship, every school, every community, every, remote outpost, and they vaccinated all the children. That's another touchstone that I often take with me. Another really interesting one is in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, meeting with local healers and teaching them about the signs and symptoms of a possible case of polio so they could report it to us, to the local authorities. And we learned what local healers do in the Congo. And then it was incredible to see them go out and use their networks of healers, very like vast networks, information networks where they sent messages and got them back, and how they were mobilized to really help us find children who needed to be vaccinated, and little clusters of polio outbreaks. That's another amazing experience, which I'll never forget. But then the most important touchstone is one that I carry with me. There's a saying, I think it was a Korean War veteran who said, speaking about his experience in the war and some of his friends who he had lost, he said, we all gave some, but some gave all. And I want to share that there have been vaccinators who have been targeted because of their role in polio eradication. Unfortunately, in religious communities in Pakistan and in northern Nigeria, we have lost polio vaccinators who were primarily women, because you can't send strange men into the homes of women to go and vaccinate children. They have to be women vaccinators. And we've lost over 100 vaccinators over the decades. And there is a fund to support them called the Polio Heroes Fund. You'll be hearing from me about that fund to learn about it. So those are some of the touchstones that I take forward. And so bringing us back then, this announcement that came from Brazzaville, from the Republic of Congo, which is different from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I had to look it up on a map. I didn't know where it was before I had gone there. So what does that have to do with us in CBH? And for that, I go back to the Shema. And when I was talking to Josh about this Devar, and I was trying to think of various lessons or various pieces of scripture, and it only occurred to me this week that the Shema really, for me, embodied what I felt about that announcement on Tuesday. I want to tell you first, though, I have a little bit of a personal history with the Shema. In 1998, Laurent and I were, we were getting ready for our wedding and getting ready to, join our lives together. And we were talking about the role of religion, and we said, Judaism would be the primary home. Judaism would be the primary religion of our home and any future children. But I assumed our children would also be exposed to, some of the lessons of my Hindu upbringing. And Laurent said to me, well, Deblina, in Hinduism, you have idols and you have lots of gods, and, it's polytheism, and the fundamental prayer, the fundamental tenet of Judaism is the Shema. And it says, God is one. And I was really concerned when he said that. And actually, the more I thought about it, I got kind of disturbed by that. And I was thinking, gosh, so, all the lords of Hinduism are now going to be banished from our home, or what? I didn't know how to take it. So that was my first experience with the Shema. And then later, when my daughter, Aaliyah, she was less than 10 at the time, and she came to me and she said, she loved the Shema. And she said, I said, what do you love about it? And she said, well, it's her favorite prayer, and she loved hearing it. She loved saying it. And I just felt, oh gosh, what does this mean for me? I don't know. Over the last few years, through more engagement with CBH, I've been really intently focusing on the Shema whenever it comes up in prayer. And even just now, Gayan, when you were reciting the Shema, and there's a piece from the Siddur that really spoke to me. And I just want to read it to you. If you have the Siddur, it's on page 276. And it's actually in the commentary of the Shema. And it says, the core of our worship is not a prayer at all, but a cry to our fellow Jews and fellow humans. In it, we declare that God is one, which is also to say that humanity is one, that life is one, that joys and sufferings are all one, for God is a force that binds them all together. And I was also struck by, later on in that commentary, it says, no wonder that the Shema is the first prayer we learn in childhood. And it's also the last thing we say before we die. And that was very profound to me. And I saw that in that interpretation, there was all this room in the Shema that I hadn't recognized before. And I started appreciating it more. So let me bring us back to Tuesday. So obviously, after working in polio eradication for many years, the announcement of a polio-free Africa was very emotional. And I immediately felt very connected with African brothers and sisters and all of God's children. And knowing that we could work together to achieve important things for humanity, I felt like it lifts us up and it binds us together more strongly. And I felt connected when I saw during that announcement the different ministers of health, from all the different countries in Africa, they were smiling like people who I had never seen crack a smile were just smiling with joy. And it was the knowledge that the children of their country would no longer, have the scourge of wild polio. They wouldn't be paralyzed. And the benefits of eradication. So not cure, but actually eradicating a disease is special because those benefits, they exist in perpetuity. And so this gift of eradication is going to be passed down for generations. And that connected me and us with generations that haven't been born yet. And so then I was overcome by this emotion. And the way that I could think about it was the Shema and this interpretation of the Shema and this much deeper understanding of the Shema. And it was really kind of the embodiment of everything that I was feeling, and I drew strength from it. And I hope this feeling can be shared in our CBH family and beyond. These types of announcements of working together to achieve things, I hope and I pray that we can do the same thing for COVID, and this message should resonate. So thank you and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Yisher Koach, thank you, Deblina, and thank you for bringing us into that global family for a deeper sense of appreciation what has happened on the continent of Africa. And I feel like a Shehechianu is in order. I hadn't planned it, but I think that this blessing of any time that something new and wondrous occurs, we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lahazman hazeh. Amen. Blessed are you, source of life, who has granted us life, who has kept us strong, and who has brought us to witness this very moment. Amen. And please, pass on to your colleagues and to everyone that you've worked with our blessings for the continued success and healing of their work. And so in this moment, whether it's in the chat or even just by kind of raising your hand, I just want to acknowledge all of you who are medical workers, who are frontline workers, who are public health workers. I want to offer you a special TishaBAv at this moment. And so if we can, we also want to put the names of people who do this work, who may not be with us, but that we're thinking of. Want to invite this, and there will also be some opportunities to expand some of the categories that I have in this prayer that I've adapted from Ayelet Cohen, Rabbi Ayelet Cohen. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all those who work to benefit our public health and those who put themselves at risk to take care of those who are ill and sick, the epidemiologists, the global health strategists, the behavioral scientists, the public health advisors, the biologists, the laboratorians, those who work in the CDC, the NIH, the World Health Organization, all of those workers, those who work in our hospitals and in our primary care centers, physicians, nurses, and orderlies, our medical health workers, technicians, home health aides, EMTs, and pharmacists, hospital social workers, chaplains, and respiratory therapists, and bless especially those who navigate the unfolding dangers of the world each day, to tend to those who have sworn to help, bless them in their coming home, and bless them in their going out, ease their fear, sustain them, uplift them, protect them, restore their sense of hope, strengthen them that they may bring strength, keep them in health that they may continue to bring healing. Help them know again a time when they can breathe without fear, without the weight of the anxiety on their shoulders. Bless the sacred work of their hands, their hearts, and their minds. May this pandemic pass from among us speedily and in our days. And let us all say, Amen.
May Shekhinah bless thee and keep thee from harm. May her light shine on you and wrap you in warmth. Adonai panav elecha vechoneka. Adonai panav elecha veyasem lecha shalom. May Shekhinah bless thee and keep thee from harm. May her light shine on you and wrap you in warmth. Adonai panav elecha vechoneka. May her countenance be lifted upon thee and bring peace.
Amen. And as we go into our announcements in a moment, I'm going to invite Jackie Sherman, our treasurer, to offer some words. I just want to also uplift our congregational COVID-19 task force and just really appreciate all of you who are working on behalf of the congregation so that we are safe. Just want to thank Allison Kelly and Michelle Casper and Lisa Barrios and Nancy Kreisman, who have guided us with steadfast thoughtfulness and good care. So thank you. Jackie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Rabbi. I wanted to also acknowledge and thank the COVID task force for sharing their expertise and helping us keep our congregation safe and making wise decisions during this time period. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to all of you, whether you are coming to us from around Atlanta or around the country or maybe even around the world. We are glad to have all of you joining us, and I want to say we hope that you will continue to join us and join us for the high holidays. You can hear the crickets in our backyard. Our regular daily and weekly gatherings continue in the coming week. Mindful Moments is at 8:45 a.m. on weekdays, a fabulous opportunity and way to start your day. We'll be exploring the spiritual themes that move us from estrangement and grief to responsibility and repair to forgiveness and self-acceptance. Please join us. And you can finish your day with the 10-minute minyan at 7:45 p.m., which I can tell you from experience is an incredibly sweet experience. It's a short minyan service and a schmooze afterwards. The CBH board continues to meet weekly on Tuesdays. Well, actually, no, not weekly, every other week now on Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. So we'll be skipping this coming week and picking up again in the beginning of September. Please join us next week for Friday night at 6:45 p.m. for services with Rabbi Josh and Gayanne. And I guess I'll insert that tomorrow morning we'll have a sort of shortish service led by Susan Levy and a Torah study with Rabbi Gottfried at 10 a.m. You can find the link on the website. Rabbi Gottfried continues her Elul lunch and lunch and learn service this Monday, August 31st at noon. Log on for more from Maimonides on how and why we should express remorse. Everyone is welcome and no experience is necessary. For a full view of our Elul offerings, please visit the CBH calendar on our website. We are constantly posting new events and services, so please check often to stay up to date. There's also information about our high holiday services, and I just want to say, from the view that I've had of what's coming up, the staff has been working tirelessly to put together an amazing offering for the period from Elul through the high holidays, for us to gather together, mostly in a large group, but also with small group opportunities. So I encourage all of you to join us for whatever and whenever you can. We have a whole section of the website dedicated to COVID resources and responses. This is where you can find links to all the public CBH Zoom gatherings, as well as links to practical and financial resources and spiritual, mental health resources. So go to the CBH website at congregation.bethaverim.org, and you'll see it in the main navigation across the top, COVID Central. Finally, if you're able, please consider making a donation to CBH to support these offerings. We know that many people are facing a shifting financial landscape, and as some of our members need to step back from donations, we ask that other members and friends consider stepping up. While I know that it might seem like without the expenses of being in our space, that our expenses might be less, but actually it is quite the opposite. So anyway, thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Jackie. Shabbat Shalom to you. We move to the conclusion of our service with the Aleinu. You can find it on page 121. Aleinu leshabech la'adon hakol, latet gedula le'ertzeh breshit, shenantan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, וחיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Friends, we turn to the prayer for the end of hiding. Please join me in saying this prayer. You can find it in the chat. As LGBTQ Jews, we are aware of the loss of integrity we suffer due to the pressures of the larger society. We often feel forced into a dishonest presentation of ourselves, to ourselves and others. The LGBTQ individuals who feel they must pretend to be something that they are not. The Jews who feel they must pretend the Jews who feel they must be alienated from their tradition and community to larger acceptance, both are victims of a theft of identity and integrity committed by the sexual, gender identifying, or religious majority. Creator of the universe, we ask that our hiding draw to an end, that we no longer feel we have to pretend, to promise falsely, to renounce ourselves, and that our fullest creative expression as Jews and as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people be among the blessings you bestow upon us. Amen. So I ask those of you who are observing a yort site or who are in a period of ritual mourning to please put your names in the chat that we are honoring the memory of. If you want to unmute yourselves and say their names out loud as well, please do so. And you'll find Moir's Kaddish on page 131.
Joseph Beckman.
Eric Reckelman.
Ellen Weinstein. Francine Cetron. Pavel Yod. Gert Cetron.
Zichronam livracha. May their memories be a blessing. Yikadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. V'alma tirute v'amlich malchute. V'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dachol Beit Yisrael. Ba'galav v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam omei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'pa'ar v'timam v'yitnaseh. Vitadar, vitale, vitalal, shmei dekudsha, barichu, leila minko birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, V'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. And it is with those words that we'll conclude our service. May the one who creates peace in the heights create peace for all of us, Israel, and the entire world.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'akol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, imru, amen. Yai-da-da-da-da-da. Yada-da-yada-yada, yada-da-yada-da-da, yada-da-da-da, yada-da-yada-da-da, yada-da-yada-da-da, oh, say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'akol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, imru, amen. You're on camera. Woo! Yada da 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 da, yada yada da, yada da yada da da, yada da yada da da da. Woo! Yada da da da, yada yada da, yada da yada da da, yada da yada da da da. Hey, yada da yada, yada yada da, yada da yada da da. Yada da yada da da da, yada da da da, yada yada da, yada da yada da da, yada da yada da da da. Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'akol yoshvei tevel. Ve'imru, imru, amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
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 Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
Thank you
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom.